Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Jane and I'm your Korean vegan chef. I've been a vegan for about 3 years and I've been a chef for about 25 years. I do love my Korean food. Um, in my channel, I'm going to show you how to make a lot of Korean dishes and make them vegan, which is not that hard because a lot of Korean dishes already have that vegan foundation. Um, and also, I like to cook a lot of American food also, and I've been watching a lot of videos, and I've been tweaking a lot of recipes on how to make things vegan. And I grew up in Hawaii, so I'm gonna show you how to make a lot of cool vegan stuff, making Hawaiian plate lunches too, like loco moco. So stay tuned and subscribe, like to my video if you like this video. But today we're gonna be making kimchi today, and we're gonna make it vegan. So traditionally, Korean kimchi is made with napa cabbage and some sort of seafood, kind of like salty seafood brine kind of flavor. So a lot of times people will use the salted brine, the brine shrimp that's salted and fermented, or anchovy sauce, or a lot of people also put like squid. It depends on where you grew up in Korea. That there's so many different types of kimchi. But being a vegan myself, I'm making a vegan version of it today. So today we're going to be making napa cabbage. So we have to prepare the napa cabbage. So when you buy it, you're looking for something that's kind of firm, okay? And look at the color. Make sure it's not dried out. And if you kind of like peel a little bit, not peel, but like kind of look inside a little, make sure it's not brown. And then all you do to start making kimchi is you cut it in half by the base. Then what you're gonna do is pull it apart. Because if you cut it all the way, you're gonna have loose pieces falling out, and it's gonna be kind of a little bit of a mess. Then you take the other half, you take one half, and by the bottom where the core is, you're gonna cut it exactly the same amount. Then you're also gonna pull it again. That way you have minimal little pieces like this. Okay, I'm gonna do that with the other one. Pull it apart. The next part, I like to put a little bit of water on the kimchi. Not kimchi, the cabbage. I have my reverse osmosis here because water here in Arizona, tap water, is not very good. So I'll just soak it a little, just enough so that there's a little bit of water in between each layer of the cabbage. And you're gonna need I have about 20 pounds of cabbage here, and for about 20 pounds, you're gonna need about 3 cups to a quart of kosher salt, or these really coarse sea salt. And you don't wanna use iodized salt because it adds that iodine flavor into the kimchi, and also it dissolves really fast, so that as the salt melts with the water, it's gonna help bring out some of the liquid in the cabbage and start the fermentation process. So what you're gonna do is liberally apply salt into each layer of the cabbage. Then you're gonna place it into a big plastic bowl, like plastic or stainless bowl like that. And you're going to let the water drain into a bowl, and flip the cabbage. I'll show you what I mean by flipping once I salt the rest of these. Okay. out of the sea salt a little, so I'm going to use kosher salt. Generously sprinkle. Okay, so once everything has salt on it, you're going to rest it in a bowl like this. So every half an hour, what you're gonna do is you're gonna move the cabbage around. So the ones on the top is not gonna have the salty liquid that comes. I added a little bit of water here too to help it along to draw the moisture out. So I have some that are on the top here like this. Obviously the top is not gonna have any liquid, so you need to move it around. By moving around, I mean basically take the ones on the bottom and put it on top. And you're gonna take the ones that were on top and put it on the bottom. So I've been doing this for this is my 5th time. Every half an hour. So this has been sitting for about 2.5 hours. Okay, and you can tell the cabbage is almost ready for the yangnyeom, which is the filling, because you can tell that it's kind of wilted and it's kind of like, it's not fresh looking anymore. But it's not, by no means, it's not, cooked down like you would when you apply heat to it. So it's still fresh, but it's just, you can tell that the salt did its job and draw out a lot of that moisture. So we're gonna let this sit for another half an hour while we prepare the filling. So for the filling, I have this daikon. You can buy it at the Asian market. There's 2 different types. This is like for kimchi making, and then they also have another variety which is long, a lot longer, and it's not as round. Those are more for pickling, for like the sweet radish. So make sure you get the ones for the kimchi. And if you're unsure, just ask the grocer. So we're just gonna julienne this like Korean style or Asian style. Just cut this into about 1/4 inch thickness. Doesn't have to be perfect, but try to make them all the same thickness. Okay, then you're gonna line them up like it's a train, choo-choo train, and just cut them into julienne. When you're cutting, make sure you curl your fingers so the blade doesn't catch your fingertip. Nothing worse than a cut on your finger when you're cooking. Then you're gonna place this into a bowl. You can use every part of the radish. Place it in there. Then you're gonna take your salt. This is about 3 pounds of radish, and you're gonna take about 1/4 cup of salt. We need a good amount of salt in here because in the traditional kimchi, what gives it that salty flavor to season the kimchi is the seafood brine, like the salted shrimp or the anchovy liquor. So we're not going to be adding any of that because it's going to be vegan, and we need a good amount of salt in here. So once you add the salt and you let this sit for about half an hour, all this water comes out. So what we're going to do is just drain the water. Okay. And this is going to be very yummy. To this, we're going to be adding some Asian chives, or also we call it garlic chives. It's kind of flat. It's not like skinny and round like you would find in typical American grocery stores. If you go to an Asian store, they have chives, and sometimes they call it garlic chives. So we're just gonna cut the garlic chives into about 1-inch pieces. I see a little bud here, we don't want that in there. Then we're gonna place it in with the daikon. We also have green onion here. I've gone ahead and cleaned it. So if there's like little pieces on the side that's, loose, you just peel it off, because that's dying already. So you want clean kimchi. You don't want messy. Just clean the tip like this. And you're gonna cut it about the same size as the chives, about 1-inch long. And you're gonna use about a dozen green onion. And also, while I'm cleaning the bottom, I usually take my finger and just clean the tip with my finger like that, so that it's nice and clean on top. I don't have to cut it separately. Okay, I'm gonna line it up. Cut it into about 1-inch thick pieces. Okay, now we're gonna make the paste. We need about a quart of water. And I'm gonna flavor this. I'm gonna flavor it with kelp to give it that seafood flavor without adding any animal product to it. I'm gonna add about 4 ounces of kelp. And I'm also gonna add some shiitake mushroom to it. The dried ones, I find that has a little more flavor when you put it into stock. So if you put it in here, I will put about 5 pieces of dried shiitake mushrooms. And we're just gonna let this come to a boil and make a delicious stock out of it. I also found this mushroom flake at the Asian grocery store. and it has no MSG and it's all natural and it's flavored with vegetables and mushroom. So I'm gonna put in about a tablespoon of this into the stock. I'm gonna let this come to a boil. So while that's going, I'm gonna start preparing my garlic and ginger. I'm gonna have my food processor ready. You know, back in the day when my mom was making kimchi, she used a mortar to crush all the garlic and ginger, and it was a lot of work. Now we have modern conveniences like this food processor that you don't have to kind of like use physical force to make kimchi. So in here I'm gonna add about a cup of garlic. To the cup of garlic, I'm gonna add about quarter cup of ginger. And ginger, all you do to peel it, if you use a peeler, you're gonna take too much of the meat out of the ginger. So what I like to do is use a spoon and just scrape the skin, and it comes off so easily. Okay. Ginger's nice and clean. We're gonna take the ginger and cut this into little pieces so that it will help the food processor do its job and break it down finely. Okay, once that's in, we're gonna pulse. I'm gonna let that stop here. And we're also gonna need about 2 small onions or 1.5 medium onion. This is a little big on the bigger side, so I'm gonna use 1.5 of this onion. Make sure you get all that fibrous part, the skin of the onion, because you don't want to be eating like kimchi and then this chewy part is like not going to break down on you even as you keep chewing. That's really annoying. So make sure you get all this fibrous part. Down to a simmer. So we don't want it to boil over, and we want to extract the flavor instead of kill, you know, when it's too hot you're going to kill a lot of that delicate mushroom and kelp flavor. So once it comes to a boil, you're going to turn it down to a simmer and let it simmer. Then I'm going to cut these onions into small chunks. Then we're gonna add it to this. The garlic and the ginger. Actually, for 20 pounds, I think we're gonna need a little more garlic. So I'm gonna go ahead and go up to about 1.5 cups of garlic. We're gonna pulse this and puree until it's in small chunks. And we're not done with this yet because once the flavor comes out of the mushroom, I'm actually going to add the mushroom in here and pulse it a little longer. Okay, so with the liquid, we're also going to make like a paste with it. With the Koreans call it chapsalgaru, which means sweet rice, which has been turned into powder. So we're gonna use this to make like a paste with it, like a loose paste, which will help bind everything together. And when we add the chili to it, it's gonna kind of help coat onto the cabbage so that it's seasoned all throughout. So this, I'm gonna let it go a little bit longer, and then we'll come back when it's ready. So the stock has been simmering for a little while, about 30 minutes. So I'm gonna take the mushrooms out, and I'm actually gonna taste this to make sure. It has that seafood flavor from the kelp, and then the mushroom brings it that umami flavor. So this kimchi will be very refreshing, even though it's vegan. So we're gonna take the mushrooms and just give it a chop to put into the food processor. Give this a go until it's nice and sweet. The reason why I have onions in here is also because, well, that's a little tip I got from my mom. She said that the onion makes the kimchi kind of sweet. So some people add sugar to their kimchi, but I don't, because, well, my mom wasn't taught to do that. So she instead puts some onions in here to make it a little sweeter. Also, when we're making our seasoning, this bowl is not going to be big enough. So I got a giant stock pot to make my seasoning, the seasoning for the kimchi, in order to put it on there. So at this moment, I'm going to be taking off the kelp. Place it in this bowl because I can use this for something else. So if we have about a quart of liquid, we're going to take about half a cup. Of the mochi flour. And we need to make a slurry. Half a cup to 3/4 of a cup. Well, let's start with half a cup and see where it goes. Whisk. take a little bit of this liquid. It smells so good. So we're gonna take this and pour it right onto the heat, and we're gonna bring it to a boil. If you don't have sweet rice flour, you can also use regular rice flour. It will just give it a little different flavor, but you know, use what you have, right? Okay, so once this comes to a boil, and you kind of boil out that raw rice flour, the sweet rice flour flavor, you're gonna need to chill it. Some ice here with some cold water. So this came out to a nice boil. We boiled it for about 2 to 3 minutes. Turn it down, turn it off. Then we're gonna put this right into the ice bath and let it cool. So while this cools, gonna be adding, we're gonna pulse this, we're gonna puree this until it's very smooth. Make sure you scrape the sides to get all the chunks that are stuck on the top. Smells really garlicky. Smells good. Once it's pureed, nice and smooth, we're gonna take it and put it into our mix. So we're gonna put the garlic and the ginger. We're gonna chill our paste a little bit longer. Looks like I'm gonna need more ice. Turn it down. And if you got a big lump, you got some lumps in your paste, what you could also do is, once you chill it down, you can add it to the food processor with the garlic in it, and it will help smooth out some of that. I've got a piece of kelp in here. Okay, so the paste is still a little bit warm, and it's gonna wilt our greens if we put it in here. So we need to chill this down. So the consistency I'm looking for is, if you've ever made pastry cream, that's the type of consistency you're looking for. Or like a pudding. Okay, so I'm gonna check the temperature of my paste, and it's just barely warm. It's not even lukewarm. I'm gonna take the paste and pour it into my garlic mixture. Oof. That's a lot of work. Every single drop of it out of the pot. Okay. Once we have this, we're gonna make sure that our daikon has a lot of that water that came out. We're not gonna put it into the paste or it'll make it too watery. So we're gonna pick this up and put it in here. Actually, 3 pounds looks like it's a little too much, so I'm gonna save a little. Because I can use this to make the pickled daikon for when I make banh mi. I'll just add a little vinegar to this and a little bit of sugar, and it will make a really good banh mi sandwich. So I had about 3 pounds of it in the beginning, so I'm gonna end up only with like 2.5 pounds, I would say, in the kimchi. Make sure you don't put any of the liquid in. So the base of my kimchi, we're gonna add about 5 cups of chili to this. Chili flakes. These are Korean. For kimchi, they use the taeyangcho, which means like a sun variety of chili flake. So this particular one it says 100% Mexico. So my mom told me either use Korean chili flake from Korea or use the Mexico one, because the ones that are made in Mexico are grown by Koreans that farm in Mexico. And I tried looking for the Korean ones, and it was hard to find in the Korean grocery store. When I did find it, for 1 pound of Korean chili flakes made in Korea was $30. This 2-pound bag of Mexico chili was $2. And of course, the ones made in China were like 2 pounds for $4. So you do the math. If you don't want to compromise the taste, go with the Mexican one. Okay, so that's 4 cups right here. And about 5 cups. So once you're done with this, I don't leave it out at room temperature. I store it in the freezer to keep the freshness. Right in the bag like that. So now you need to mix this up. If you're about it doing it by hand, just wear a glove, and your hand's gonna get like red, and it's gonna be spicy also because of the, not only of the chili, but because of the garlic and the ginger. That's what gives kimchi that spiciness. It's not all from the chili flake, it's from the ginger mostly. If you like it a little spicier, you can add a little more ginger. If you don't like that ginger flavor, you can go lighter on the ginger. Ah, this is smelling so good already. Wow. So here's my paste. Just mix it thoroughly and evenly so that there's no paste or radish that doesn't have all the flavor mixed in. See, like right here, you see some part here that's not mixed in. Make sure you get it all mixed in really well. So now that there was no like a salted shrimp that went in here or anchovy extract, we need to kind of taste this to make sure that there's enough salt in this. Let me take my glove off. So I'm gonna take a leaf. See, this is ready to go. Do you see how it's kind of like has a lot of the moisture drawn out of it? You can see that it's limp, it's not stiff and fresh. So I'm just gonna take a little bit of this. I can already taste the sweetness from the onion. I think it needs a touch bit more of salt. Instead of all salt, I'm gonna add a little bit of soy sauce, just a little. And about 4 tablespoons of salt. And mix this in again. And mix it with the paste. That's good. So now that our filling has been prepared, we're gonna need to drain this. So some people rinse this, but since we're not using a lot of seafood flavor to kind of like give that umami and the salt to it, I'm not gonna drain this. I'm just gonna squeeze the extra water out. And stack it here. Making this much kimchi is like an all day kind of thing on your day off. Even if you make just 2 heads of cabbage, it's gonna be like an all day event because you still have to salt it and wait for it to kind of draw out the moisture for about 3 hours. So that's why I make a big batch when I do make it, because it's a lot of work to begin with anyway. So I like to make a lot since I like to have it a little sour too. I like sour kimchi, and what I do with the sour kimchi is I make a soup or stew with tofu in it, or I make pancake with it, like a savory pancake with kimchi, or the lentil cakes. Also, the Koreans, we call it bindae. It's basically lentils, kimchi, fern top, a little bean sprout, and you make a little pancake out of it, and it's very delicious. I'll make one of the videos how to make the lentil bindae. So squeeze this water out, and I'll come back when I squeeze all of it and we're ready to go. Okay, I'm back. So I've squeezed all the water out of this salted cabbage. That's been about 3 hours. The ones that I've salted in front of you, I'm going to kind of cut them up to make it a little easier to eat. Because when you put these in the container, after you put the seasoning on it, what you have to do is take it out of the container and then you cut it out. Then you eat it like this. A lot of people keep it like this for the aesthetics. When you cut it up in whole like this, it looks prettier when you're presenting it to like guests that come over. It just looks nicer and neater. But for myself, sometimes I don't want to take it out and cut with the cutting board getting all red color. I'll just like cut like this. And just salt it in here. That way, after I squeeze all the water out, I can just take the filling and mix it up. So that's up to you, how you would like to make the kimchi. So for this, I'm gonna take, for this way of making kimchi, I'm gonna take the core out, because that's very fibrous and like you're not gonna really break it down by chewing. So since I have a head of cabbage left here, I'm going to save about 1.5 cups of that filling to mix into this later in about 3 hours. So before I even start putting on the filling into the kimchi, I need to decide how I'm going to store these. So what I found is that glass containers work really well, because if you use plastic jars or plastic Tupperware, it will get chili from the chili, like there's oil in the chili that gets all over into the plastic, and the smell and the color would never come out unless if you soak it in bleach, but then you're gonna have the container smelling like bleach, and that's another problem you have to deal with. So I have these glass containers, and I'm gonna be giving some away, so I'm gonna put it in plastic Ziploc bags. So before I even start putting it in, I'm gonna make sure that these are ready, so I don't have to do this in the middle of putting the filling on it. Take the lids out. here we go. Oh. You can do it bare hand, but I'm gonna put on gloves because I don't want it to stain and color my hand. And the garlic smell will not come out for days. Oops. Okay. See, it already stained here on my wrist. I can still see stains of chili if you look closely. So either be ready to scrub really hard or wear gloves. Okay, for this part, I need to set it up so you can see it. So I'm gonna take a quarter of the cabbage and hold the inner side, hold it up, and just let down a layer of the cabbage. Take some of this and spread it on here. Make sure you get to the tip also. Then you're gonna pull the next layer down. And you're gonna take some of, I would say about 3 tablespoons full of the filling. And just rub it all in. Then the next layer, same thing, and you go a little less. Now I'm putting about 2 tablespoons because the layers are getting smaller. And the next layer. Okay, it's about 2 tablespoons. Now I'm gonna end up with about a tablespoon. And then just rub it all around. And that's how you make kimchi. Then I have a container right there. Shape it so that it will fit. I guess I can only fit 2 in there. Again, start with by holding the head like this, then you pull down the outer layer. Take about 3 tablespoons of filling. Make sure you get some of that the daikon in there, along with the green onions and the chives. Okay, get in there. 2 tablespoons. Now a tablespoon, about. Okay, so now you kind of gather this up into the natural shape and then kind of like tuck the end a little to fit it into your container. Put it in. Okay. This is gonna be delicious. I have another container here. I may be only able to fit 1 large one or maybe 2 little ones. I'm not gonna risk it, I'm just gonna put a 1 large one in there. So again, pull down the outermost layer like this. Put about 3 tablespoons. Make sure you get it really evenly distributed. So kimchi is actually, it's fermented, but it's closer, yeah, well, it's a type of fermentation, which is close to pickling. But this is natural. You don't pour any vinegar into it. So the fermentation naturally creates the sour, like probiotic culture, which is really beneficial to your gut health and overall health. That's why a lot of health experts are saying that because of kimchi, the COVID cases in Korea, South Korea are not that extreme like we do here in United States. They even did a study in Germany which they eat a lot of sauerkraut, which is a type of fermentation. And similar to kimchi, their COVID cases are not as extreme as here. So eating a lot of kimchi is good for you. Okay, now about 2 tablespoons worth. And a lot of people enjoy kimchi different ways. So some people prefer fresh kimchi, which is just like this. You make it and you eat it the same day, up to a week. And some people like it. There's a what do you call it? I'll call it ikinda, which means letting it ferment a little, so that it turns slightly sour, and there's a little overall roundness of flavor into it. It's not like the garlic flavor mellows out a little. The ginger flavor also mellows out a little because of the fermentation. And you get a little tanginess from the probiotics that's forming inside. And that's the way I prefer to eat kimchi. So the way you achieve that in short amount of time without a kimchi refrigerator, or like they do in the country where they bury it into the ground, you just leave it out overnight for a few nights, and you see the bubbles forming from the kimchi, and that means it's like it's fermenting and it's getting ready for you to enjoy all the goodness, you know. So this one, let me see if I can fit it into this jar. I don't know if it'll fit. Let's see. It's not gonna fit, so I'll just put it in here. My countertop is gonna have like chili everywhere, but it's okay. This is quartz, so I can just bleach it out. I think this one will fit. Okay. Maybe I'll do 2 little ones. This one. If you're unsure, just make sure it fits. Okay, there's one. Yeah, this will fit too. Okay, so I'm gonna start with this. I'm just gonna put about 2 tablespoons because it's a smaller one. And the expert Korean ladies who make this, they take a lot of it and then just put as much as you need in one layer and move on to the next. And so they don't have to keep reaching in there to get more filling. Over time, you'll be able to do that too, you know? Okay, so since the jar is kind of on the small side, I'm going to just put the head in first. Don't forget to get in the middle too, because that's the part that needs the filling the most, because these outer pieces will have the creases in it to trap the filling. But in the, like these flat, smooth surfaces, there's not much that holds it, so you need to make sure there's enough filling in the middle so that it's not so bland. And when this kimchi kind of matures and ferments and it has that sour tangy flavor, I enjoy this white part more than the leafy part, because it still has that crunch when you bite into it. It has that texture. Okay, so I have 2 in here. Okay, good. So the rest of these will get into the Ziploc bag, because my mom took the big jar, the glass jar that she brought her kimchi in. Oh no, actually there's some in the refrigerator, but there's some kimchi in it. Okay, so we're back. So the kimchi that the cabbage that I cut up earlier to make eating a little easier for myself, I have enough filling. I have about 2.5 cups, almost 3 cups left over. So I had just right amount of filling left. So I'm gonna squeeze all the water out and put it into my filling. I'm putting it in here because I don't want this plastic to turn red. So I'm just gonna mix this in. If you could just smell this. You smell the garlic and the ginger. and that little bit of mushroom smell from the shiitake mushroom and the mushroom powder. It really has that umami flavor without the MSG or any like animal product in it. So if you're gonna eat it fresh like this, sometimes there's not enough salt in it sometimes, so you might want to taste it. For fermenting, I think that's just right amount of salt, and I tasted it earlier. Let me see. Actually, this is really good. No more salt. Perfect amount of salt. Let's say you were overzealous with the salt here. What you can do, if your kimchi is too salty, what you can do is puree a little more of the onions and make a little bit more of the paste, and then put it in the food processor together and then add it to your kimchi. That way you don't have to keep adding salt to counterbalance the sugar. I mean, you don't have to keep adding sugar to counterbalance the salt, and your kimchi won't end up weird, you know? So just that tip, if your kimchi gets a little too salty, make a little bit more of the paste and add a little bit of onion to it, puree onion. That's so good. So that's it for the kimchi tutorial. If you enjoyed this video, again, like and subscribe and leave me comments on what you thought about the video and what you want to see in the future videos. I look forward to seeing you again. Bye.